Would be, I guess, an investor pitch, but basically it's an introduction to our company. So just trying to get some feedback on our pitch. So. All right, so for those of you who don't know me, I am Stefan Shelton, Chirp Microsystems. I'm one of the technical leads. And at Chirp, we're developing a low-power ultrasound for mobile and wearable electronics. And this is the ultrasonic sensors for proximity detection and gesture recognition. So what's the problem here? So 50 billion new Internet of Things devices are by 2020. So we need to develop new ways to interface with these to improve the user experience as well as enable new use cases. And so many of these devices are either too big or too small to accommodate a traditional touchscreen interface and UI. So we're using an ultrasonic sensor to create a gesture input system for that. In combination with this, we'd also like these devices to know a little bit more about the world around them. Right now, you set your cell phone down, and it has no idea what's going on around it. And we want to change that. So to enable that, you need a low-power sensor that can be on all the time. And there are very few of those in a smartphone right now. Most of them have to be turned off most of the time because they use too much power. So how large is this market? So it's quite big. If you break it down and look at the laptop, smartphone, and wearable market, you're looking at 2 billion delivered units in 2015 projected. And then break that down even further, down into the smartphone alone, you're looking at 1.2 billion in 2015. And by 2018, the projection is that the gesture input into those devices could be as many as half of the delivered units. So what is the Chirp solution for this? I'm going to go just into the technology a little bit here. So we use an ultrasound sensor that we've developed to emit a pulse of sound out into the environment. This gets reflected off different objects, and then we receive it using the same transducer. And from that, we can get the distance to the object, and then as well as the angle to it. So some of the highlights of our technology here. We're using a proven echolocation technique. It's very similar to what bats use. Like I mentioned, what key differentiator for us is that it's ultra low power. We're talking about 5 microwatts per element, so we can leave it on all the time, just pinging the environment, seeing what's out there. Very small size, millimeter element. The current ultrasound transducers that are out there are transmit only and are 5 millimeters, so 25 millimeters square. So, and it also, this enables it to fit into wearable devices that are too small for the touchscreen, like I mentioned before. Good depth resolution, it will tell you with good accuracy how far away the object is. Also works in any ambient light condition. This is a problem with a lot of the competing optical solution. One is they use way too much power. As anybody who's left their camera on their phone for too long, it drains it very, very quickly. And then the additional processing for that. And so our sensor is totally immune to ambient light and whatever it is you're looking at. Dark, light, doesn't matter. Can use a single element for transmit and receive, put an array of these together to change the desired performance for a given application. All right, so I wanted to show a little video here. So this is our most recent demo. So it highlights 2 use cases in a smartphone. So we integrated our sensor into a smartphone. And basically it's showing 2 things. So it's showing the contextual awareness, so this is wake-up approach. And then the second one is actually controlling volume without touching the screen.
Hey Richie, what time is it?
12:39. Hey, when's our next meeting?
2 o'clock?
Okay, I should be ready by then. Thanks.
Without even same thing, pulling the phone out of the pocket.
Hey, Richie, that's too loud. Can you turn it off?
Sure.
So, this is just highlights a couple of, potential applications that this can enable. All right. So another thing about our technology that's really nice is it's very scalable. And so you can tailor the technology to a given application by changing the number of transducers that you're using. So with a single element, which is what we used in the phone for the demo there, you can do 1D proximity, 1D gesture. It's a very, very small package. By scaling it up to a linear array or a full 3D array, you can actually do full 3D gesture control. And we actually have a demo that shows this. So once again, whether you're looking at a smartphone, a mobile or wearable, putting this into a vacuum cleaner, we've seen quite a bit of interest from that. Just doing proximity detection, knowing what's going on out there. So we've been working on this for quite some time, and I think have a pretty good start on everybody else. The team was working on this for 5 years at the university before spinning out into Chirp, and we had over $3 million in non-dilutive funding there. And we patented we have an exclusive license to the patents that we wrote while we were in the research stage. And that covers the transducer design, and as well as the ASIC and the entire system design. And of course, we've continued to develop our IP portfolio since being spin off. So a little more background on the company. So we're a fabless sensor startup building these low sensor 3D systems. Founded in 2013, just about a year ago. Technology was developed right here at UC Berkeley Sensor and Actuator Center. We're located in the Skydeck accelerator, which and are enjoying the benefits of that. We also have had a few nice mentions. E-Times, the CTO Forum Startup Pitch, we were a winner of that. And then to go a little further into our founding team, so our CEO, Michelle King, has 17 years of experience in this business development in both corporate and startup environments. So she worked at Aptina and then has done 2 previous venture funded startups. CTO David Horsley is a professor at UC Davis, as well as significant industry experience, and has done a lot of collaboration within industry, so we have a lot of good contacts there. Bernard Bozer is more in an advisory role. He is a professor here at UC Berkeley in the East Department. Our technical team consists of Richie Presbola. He's our ASIC designer, a PhD from UC Berkeley. Myself, I'm a PhD from UC Davis, and I work on the sensor design and fabrication. And then finally, Andre Guadish was a postdoc in our research team and at UC Davis, and he has a PhD from Lisbon. So, in summary, this is an large expanding market, and we think that our MEMS-based solution is basically the only thing that can meet these gesture recognition and proximity requirements given in the restricted energy environment of a mobile wearable device. It's configurable, highly configurable, scalable to address different market needs. And we think we have a pretty good start on the competitors, both current and future. Thanks. Able to put this into something like a smartwatch and actually doing a full 3D gesture system would really, I mean, that would be very, very impressive. And I think it actually fills a real need. Yeah. Yeah.
So what's your strategy around partnerships and going to market? It seems like you have a lot of different applications. So if you had to do a case study, let's say, who would you pick as your ideal partner and how would you take it to market?
Right, so basically we're looking at partnering with some of the big like headset manufacturers, and basically convincing them to put this into their they would be our ideal partner, I guess.
Did they give you any insight on how they would use it from an application perspective? And, you know,
I think that's still in development. We've had lots of good discussions with all the large players in the industry, and basically we presented sort of some of the ideas that we have, and they are also generating and giving us feedback on how they think they could use it most effectively.
got it.
Yeah.
I'm going to build on a couple of things that have been said here.
Mhm.
I think we're dancing around. I think this is really cool,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think you guys are clear on pain, right? I think right now it's feeling like a vitamin pill, not a pain
Mhm.
pill. A really cool vitamin pill that makes you feel really peppy, but I feel like it's that whole sort of Steve Blank, get out of the building, talk to 100 customers. Where's that really not the first thing you guys can bring out, but
Mhm.
what is the pain that you're going to solve that is going to be the pull rather than you pushing? Because it feels like you're going out and going, you want this, you want this, and it's more like somebody out there is really hurting for this.
Mhm.
When I heard this, I was talking to somebody from your team
Mhm.
at the last time I was at, Sky Fridays or something.
Yep.
And the idea of making things bigger,
Mhm.
with a tiny little screen that I can't see because I've got my contacts in,
Right.
and I'm not 25 anymore.
Yeah.
That's a pain. I mean, I've been at events where I was supposed to be tweeting or something, and I'm like, I can't see my screen. Or I'm in the car with my husband, he's like, look this thing on the map, where are we? I'm like, I can't see it.
Mhm.
Because it's just too small. And if I, you know what I mean? Like if I could bring it up and do something with it,
Mhm.
that's actually good for the boomers, for 75 bazillion of us, that's gonna be, like getting older every day.
Mhm.
That's a real pain point, something
Mhm.
like that. I mean,
Yeah.
anyway, sorry, I didn't mean
Yeah.
to take it up.
Yeah, so it's basically, the feedback is,
It's-
it needs to be a little bit more focused on the
Solve
the
a real
thing.
problem. Solve a real
Yeah,
problem.
the
Show us the
problem.
problem, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Another skeptic here.
Okay.
Especially with the effective demise of Google Glass is very sobering.
Mhm.
And now we're looking at, the HoloLens announcement and all of that, which is still pretty pie in the sky. How much actual user acceptance / adoption, real life testing can you do at this stage with gesture control? I mean, just a minute ago, you were talking about, device fits on a wearable watch. That's
Mhm.
cool, great, great line, but if gesture control of the watch, it's right there, for Christ's sake. I mean, it's tactile. I'm getting absolute feedback. I don't buy why this is better than this. So talk me through that. How can you test? I'm talking about fundamental user adoption and acceptance of gesture control, 3D spatial gesture control of devices.
Right, well, I think that's, it's a big question, right?
Sorry.
Yeah. So I guess the way that I might address that is how do you, just a minute. How do you get, so the question is, how do you get somebody to adopt 3D, right? Like what is going to be the use case that drives that 3D, the gesture input into something? But I think there's cases, for example, like an automotive application in your car. You don't want to be messing with knobs, doing different things like that. And I think that's an application where it could be very important to be able to do something without having to touch it.
My bigger question is, how much of that can you test now? Even if you're just faking the prototype. I mean, can you put users in front of the device and say, wave your hand and do this, and gauge the response and whether that would be actually adopted?
Yes, I think that we can, given the current state of our demo, we can basically put somebody in front of that and have them at least start thinking about how that might be used. I guess I would say that the 3D gesture is just one aspect, right? So of how is one aspect of what this technology can do. And I think that will take some time to figure out the exact case that will be used for, right? So I think that starting maybe with something simpler, which is sort of what we're planning, is to start with something like replacing the proximity sensor. The proximity sensor in the phone right now is just not, it's IR based, and it doesn't tell you, it just tells you if something there is not, and it's fully based on reflectance. And so our sensor, you can imagine dropping it in and being able to tell, okay, not only is something there, but it's exactly what distance that's at. And I think that's moving towards the 3D thing, but I think getting that full adoption is still an open question. Yeah?
I like the picture of it being, so you could kind of create a cool mental picture of this being like, you know, taking up a lot less energy than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking that to get that point across better, if there might be an opportunity to create sort of a figure of competing sensors and how much energy they've taken up over time,
Mm-hmm.
and where your sensor sort of lies now in comparison to that curve.
Mm-hmm.
That was just a figure that I had sort of imagined in my head that might sort of bring some.
So just a more concrete.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I sort of found myself wondering, like, where is this going to compare in the future of where sensors are going?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would have been helpful.
Okay. Yeah.
So on top of what was just said,
Yeah.
I think the number one problem in the world right now is batteries.
Yes.
And people being trained every day to recharge their phones. So
Exactly.
any endeavor that decreases the need for that has a really high value.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, emphasizing that a lot in your pitch might really attract investors.
Okay.
You know, if you just ask them, how many of you guys charge your phone every day?
Right.
How many of you would like to do it less often?
Yeah.
You're gonna get a room full of hands, and
Yes.
that's your pitch, right? Like then you work your way back to
Mhm.
technology.
So,
Yeah.
I've got a few comments. I mean, so
Yep.
one on the replacement. I mean,
Mhm.
as a component provider, replacement is a terrible business strategy because by definition,
Right.
you don't enable anything, so you can only compete on cost.
Right.
And so, I mean, I don't know how much additional value distance would bring compared to an IR sensor.
Mhm.
But I did want to comment on some of the other comments that were made here. I mean, one thing is, it's tough for a component supplier to think all the way through and really understand the value proposition that's going to be realized in a phone like this. I mean, if you look at inertial sensors, the component suppliers didn't think that through. It was Apple that gave you screen rotation.
Mhm.
So I think the key there is you have to partner with the platform that you want to go in,
Mhm.
and they'll be the ones that will answer that question. You're not going to
Yeah.
be able to answer it yourself. And then related to that, you know, one thing that I saw missing here is this is an active space. So
Mhm.
I was expecting to see InventSense. I mean, they've made acquisitions in the space. The lack of competitive landscaping here, I think, is, well, it's problematic, but it's also an opportunity. So
Mhm.
it should be included, but it also demonstrates that there's actually a lot of money going into the space, and there's a lot of potential opportunity.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
So, sorry, it wasn't a
Yeah.
question, I guess it's just comment.
Yeah, no,
Feedback,
that was
so,
very good.
yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah.
What about the impact that it has to us in the car, where I'm doing a gesture to turn the radio on, off, or louder? So it's running all the time, the waves are always hitting me,
Mhm.
looking for my hands to move.
Mhm.
What is the impact? I would think that you might know that.
The impact in terms
On
of
my
like.
body, got the
Ye-
waves. I've had ultrasounds,
Right.
when I had babies, I had ultrasounds done.
Right.
And,
So-
you know, the dad is outside and I'm there getting, you know, so I
Right.
know it's low power, but what about low impact to
It-
the person who's getting ultra?
Yeah, so the amount of basically output pressure that it's putting out is actually relatively low. It's a very sensitive receiver. And so it's it's below, there are limits for this sort of thing, and these sensors are below those limits.
You might
And-
want to talk
and-
about that,
yeah.
because that's, you know,
Yeah, concern,
you know,
yeah,
we have these radio waves, they're going all over the place, wireless all
Right.
through us, right?
Yeah.
What's this gonna do?
right. And, there are, like I mentioned, there are sensors that use ultrasound already. For example, some of the sensors that they use to open up the back of a car, for example. Those are using a different sort of transducer, but they are out there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so just to piggyback on the painkiller versus vitamin discussion.
Yep.
So I think one of the use cases that I thought might be an interesting application is for people with special needs. So
Mhm.
perhaps a child with a sensory processing disorder who isn't good with their hands touching objects but can move them in space, or someone with Parkinson's where they hold the device and their hand starts shaking, where it might be easier to do it across space. So a lot of the pitch describes the science and the technology, which is very, high end and really incredible. But it's great to take that high level technology and bring it all the way down to the person who really has that pain. And I think it would resonate and have a nice flow and narrative throughout throughout the pitch. So just
All right.
considering, all the different pain points, that's something, someone who wants to just turn the volume on and off, it's cool, and it's like a nice, really cool peppy vitamin as discussed, but
Yeah.
for a parent who can't get their child to interact with iPads and educational material because they have these limitations, but this can break through potentially, would be really powerful.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess it's just going back to that a little bit more, drilling it down from the technology to the target. Yeah.
Yeah, one other thing I was going to comment on is, the mobile handset market is attractive, and it's obviously one you highlight, but it's
Yep.
also the opposite in terms of an attractive market for a startup.
Yes.
Because of the scale, right?
Yeah.
So, so manufacturing defects, these are all things that large chip suppliers are good at. These are things that small companies, especially chip suppliers, are terrible at.
Yes.
So, I think that's something that needs to be addressed in the presentation as well.
Mhm.
How are you going to be cost competitive? How are you going to make the device manufacturable? And maybe there's a niche before you move to mobile, but chasing mobile right out of the starting gate, I think I've done it myself, and
Yeah.
it is really, really difficult.
Yes.
So, just.
Yeah, no, I think definitely aware of that, and